Welcome back to Hypothetically Sound Presents Nerd Shit. We're here with another podcast. Today we have another guest, and this guest isn't our mother. This time it's our father. Dad, you want to introduce yourself?
Hey, how you doing? I'm Randy Stringer Sr.
Yeah, and I'm Junior. So today I thought we'd bring on our dad to talk about the nerdiest subject that I could think of. So I'm gonna give you a little test. So if I told you we're gonna talk about a thing where people go to this event, they dress up, some wear costumes, some wear makeup, some wear the items of the people they're rooting for, they root against people. What would you guess that we were talking about? Probably like Comic Con or some kind of VidCon or gaming con, right? No, we're talking about the nerdiest thing possible. So nerdy that it became popular and accepted, and that is sports. Sports is literally the nerdiest thing that we could possibly think of.
Yeah,
And
100%.
we're gonna talk
Name,
about
name. What's the difference between someone who can name every superhero and their power versus someone who can name every player of every team, 32 NFL teams, or
yeah, every starting quarterback,
their
their
stats.
stats. It's
like
super
it's the
nerdy.
same thing. It's the
I'm
same
gonna have
thing.
to I'm gonna have to plead the fifth because I can probably answer the football question. So I don't know what you're talking about.
All I'm saying.
And I can probably answer the Marvel question too. So
Yeah.
It's some nerd stuff.
People who
It's some
try
nerdy
to
stuff.
like laugh at people who like anime or like Harry Potter or things like that, and then they watch sports and can tell me pitchers ERA from 2012, need to just sit down a little bit and realize that baseball stats are nerdier than anything I could tell you about Glee. So yeah, that's that.
Yeah, true.
So today, I thought it'd be fun. Recently, NBC Sports put out a top 10 players in the NBA right now going into the 22-23 season. And so I sent everybody the list, and I had everybody either agree with the list or make their own list. So let's get right into it. Let's just talk about the list first. I'll go through, say who they put as 1 through 10. We'll discuss a little bit, and then we'll go through and share our list. So NBC Sports put Giannis at number 1, Kevin Durant at number 2, Jokic at number 3, Curry at number 4, LeBron at 5, Embiid at 6, Luka at 7, Jason Tatum at 8, Jimmy Butler at 9, and Devin Booker at 10. How do you feel about their top 10 list?
I think they missed the mark. I think there was somebody that loves certain players that made this list. And I had to create my own. We'll go over that in a minute. I just think when I look at the list, the thing that stands out to me that makes no sense is Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, um, and there was somebody else on there. I can't remember. But those two, okay. First of all, they've been hurt. Okay, and they're giving me 20 points, but they're not giving me no consistency. And they haven't really led a team. I'm sorry. When you talk about they're the greatest of all time, you have to be a leader. And those two is not leaders, no matter what you say. Oh, and Jimmy Butler, most overrated player, I think, on the whole list is Jimmy Butler. He is not that good. When you put defense on Jimmy Butler, when you force him to actually play a full game, where he can't relax a little bit, or when if you're a superstar, you're supposed to play from the first whistle to the last whistle. You watch Jimmy Butler's game. Sometimes he out there eating a hot dog and sipping on a Coke. I don't know what he be doing. He just stands around and looks at everybody. Again, no leadership to me. That's the number one thing. The three guys I don't think should be on the list. I don't think they're leaders.
Uh,
You know, and
I agree with the Kevin Durant thing. If you follow me on TikTok or you watch your stream, me and Alec talked about it. Kevin Durant can't lead a team. Kevin Durant is not a GOAT in any sense of the word. He is one of the most prolific offensive scorers we've seen play, with his size, his athletic ability, and everything like that, and his skills. But outside of that, like you said, he can't lead a team. I don't think he is that much of a difference maker on every aspect of the game. Where I do disagree with you is Jimmy Butler. From being a 3-star kid to being a all-pro player, I do think he's a difference maker. But if we're going to talk about leadership and leading a team to victory, I think he is one of those players like Kevin Durant that needs a solid squad around him. He is not an MJ. He is not a LeBron. He can't take a team to the next level on his own. You can't put scrubs around him and he will win. Same with Kevin Durant. You can't put scrubs around them and they will win. They need more stars. Like when we're talking about this new star system that is in the NBA, we're talking about players like Kevin Durant, Booker, Embiid, even Giannis to an extent need higher talented players around them to win a championship. Giannis being number one, understandable. I see how his size, his athletic ability, puts him in that stratosphere. But again, he won a championship in a very down year. And you see where he gets without everybody around him. He needs players around him to win.
Well, when they lost Middleton to injury, and they had to play, 3/4 of the season. Well, the truth came out.
Mm-hmm.
They double T Giannis. He can't shoot, a 3-pointer. I mean, yeah. When in the open floor, he's probably one of the nastiest players in the game.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that the game is not always played on the open floor. And when you're talking about, championship basketball, we're talking about half court, grind it out. Who's a better man? Can you play against 5 men, basically?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when his weakness showed. Now, he's on my list, so I can't say he ain't a great player, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying that's the problem with him though, is you kind of know what you're going to get. He's trying to develop that 3-pointer. He's working on it, but somebody need to tell him the truth. You not a 3-point shooter right now. Get in the gym, go take 3,000 shots from the 3-point range. Work on that every day, and then as long as you can get me up, if he can get up to 30% from the 3-point range, then he might be to me the best player in the game.
Oh yeah.
His
And
weakness is so glaring that you can see it. I mean, there's no escaping that.
yeah, I've talked to Alek, like when we sit in Discord and we watch a game with Bucks fans. Every time Giannis gets the ball and it's not, and they have to run an offense, it's get Giannis an ISO, Giannis a dribble, try to move up, and if he can't, he'll back all the way out to the 3-point line and then drive. That is Giannis's game, and it's annoying to watch. And like I understand why you can't double when he does that. You like help defense because they have shooters. So you
Right.
can't bring in your help defense from the wing because then you leave Middleton open or you leave other shooters open. And yet that's part of his facade, part of his game. But at the same time, it's only going to work so long. Like as the game develops around him and you have lengthier wings like Jaden McDaniels, and now that Towns is going to be out there, you're starting to get players that are like that mode where they have the reach to not only defend the wing but come in and help as Giannis drives. And so that
Right.
kickout's not going to be there because of their length and athleticism. So his game's going to go away very quickly in today's NBA.
That's true. 100%.
Alec, how do you feel about the list?
I can see why people put where people would put, right?
Mhm.
I personally like Kevin Durant's a little too high. I think Luka's a little too low.
Mm-hmm.
But like again, I can see kind of why they picked what they picked. I don't fully agree with it, obviously, especially Kevin Durant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's about it. Like I can see why they put. I think the bottom 3 are fair. I think 7 and up could get adjusted super well.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
As Dad said, I do believe whoever made this list made it for a very political reason. Only thing that, like, if we're talking politics, the only thing that is confusing to me on who made the list is why Luka is 7. The NBA wants Luka to be their guy so bad. They want Kevin Durant to be their guy so bad. So for Luka to be 7 is a little confusing to me. But yeah, That's why I had us all make our own list.
I think Luka's sick. So
Yeah.
I think
So
he has a reason the NBA wants to push him so hard.
oh yeah,
Unlike Durant.
he's
So
super talented. Like you can't deny it. Luca is probably one of the most talented and high ceilings player in the league right now. Uh, he has the potential to be a LeBron type game changer in a few years. Uh, like he still has to develop his game and learn how to lead, which is why he's lower, I think. Is because yeah, he can do all this on his own. He can get the triple double. He can score. He can make clutch shots, but he didn't do anything to make his team better, in my opinion.
So when I go through my list, I want to talk about each person I got at each spot and kind of tell you why they're there and what their problem is.
Yeah,
So I'm holding back on Nikolai. I mean on Luca. I got something for Luca.
yeah, go ahead. Let you start, and then Alec, you can do your list, and I'll do mine after. So go ahead, Deb.
Well, actually, I got the Joker as number one. All right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. And I don't care what anybody says. If you watch him play, that man can do anything he wants at any time. I mean, when they talk about an unguardable person, when you watch him, and again, I've watched them against Rudy Gobert, against Carl Anthony Times, against Joel Embiid. They can physically play with him, right? And they can make him change his game, but that's just it. Him changing his game doesn't take anything away from his game because he already does those other things. If you want to make him emphasize passing more, not a problem. If you want him to shoot 3 pointers, not a. I mean, the man's got a complete game, and if he had just a little bit more talent, he would probably have won a couple NBA championships. That's on the team, not on him. I think he does it all great. Second, again, we've already talked about this man, but Giannis has to be second just because of the fact that he's predictable, but unfortunately, nobody's been able to stop him yet.
Mm-hmm.
Like Randy said, though, that's going to be changing. There's a lot more wings now that are just as big as him, that have the same speed as him, same strength, and they're going to be out there in his face more often. And they know that's the way to stop him, take away his space. So, but I put him number two just because if he, like I said, if he can learn to shoot the 3 point shot, he'd probably be number one on the list. Be honest with you. All right, number three. Well, we got to go with the old dog, Stephen Curry. Let's get real. I mean, you can't stop him. I mean, the only thing I can say that worries me about him is his health. I'm not sure how many more seasons he's really got left with those ankles, you know. And you can see him slowing down a little bit. Age catches up to everybody. But overall, his game, hey, it speaks for itself. I mean, that's why he's one of the greatest players to ever play the game. He just plays it at a different level for the size that he is and with the skill that he got. Number four, just because honestly, he's probably the smoothest offensive machine in the game. That when he's on, even I have to admit nobody can stop him. Is Kevin Durant. I mean, when he's on, when his head's in the game, he gonna get you 34, 35, get you, 10 rebounds and 3 or 4 assists, and he can do that multiple games in a row. He just can't lead. And he doesn't know how to adjust to other people that need him to be a certain way at certain times. But he's still an unstoppable force when it comes to offense, especially when he's hot and he's in a groove. All right. Number five, I had to go back with another big man that I don't I don't like his game personally, but he can dominate with his game. And that's Joe Embiid. I think he's grown into that dominant post player. The you can call him like a mini Shaq like. I mean, because he kind of bullies people that way. He can play bully ball all day with anybody. He don't care who you is. I like that. But and he takes a few 3 pointers, he makes a couple, but then he plays outside of his head. Then he gets into his head. And then next thing you know, he's shooting 30 footers going, what are you doing, bruh? That's not your game. So if he could stay within his game, he could easily go up the list. But he's solid at five though. Number six, I had to go back again, old school, old dog, LeBron James. I don't care what you say. He old, he old for a basketball player, but he has proven even less this last season when he wants to dominate and take over games, it's over. The problem is he doesn't have the motor anymore to do that for 20, 30 games. He might be able to do it for 10, 12, 15. Now, people wonder why he tries to get people to come that have high skill level, as Randy talked about. Certain players need high skill level players with them. LeBron knows he can only do so much for so long. If Anthony Davis can get healthy, that's something he could use somebody just to be more consistent around him to allow him to pick and choose his spots. If that happens, he'll win another NBA championship. There's no doubt. But he has to have somebody that's willing to be that, that go-to solid 20 to 25 point scorer every night. That, he can just, play off of him and then get his when he needs it. I think that's where he's at now. Number 7, I just like the way this man's game is going. He's becoming unstoppable. Jason Tatum. I think I really like everything that he's been doing. I think he showed some maturity when him and Brown figured out that they could play together and they actually got along. And and then you watch them play. He kind of uplifted the Celtics in the playoffs to me. So he's on his way. He's got all that skill level. You gotta love it. So he actually bit out the next guy at number 8 for the 7th spot for one very simple reason. Luka Doncic needs to get into shape and take over the games. He takes over the games, but he's too worried about calls and whistles, and he can do anything he wants on the court, but some of it's because he's just out of shape. Let's be honest now. And then as the season go on, he gets a little bit better because he gets in a little bit better basketball shape. But to be a champion, you need to be in shape day one. Coming out of a training camp, you need to be already 100% peak shape, and you can't play yourself into it like a James Harden tried to do. You know, it doesn't work. Obviously, because we're talking about world class athletes that you're once you're a step behind, you're a step behind, and I don't care who you are, you pay the price for that. Number 9, probably one of the most exciting young players in the game, Ja Morant. I'm sorry, he had to make the list because that boy is just playing some crazy basketball. He leads that team. There's no doubt about it. He's already got the leadership down. He's got the swag. He got all of that. He's going to be the next Stephen Curry type of player. He's got all of that skill and then some. Um, and what I mean by that, he might not be the pure shooter that Stephen is, but he can be that leader that Stephen is also, though. I think he's going to be the next one to go to that type of leadership for his team. Number 10, I had that. He's the best shooting big man in the game, right? So we all know I'm talking about Carl Anthony Towns. And I think moving him from center to power forward and just allowing him to stretch the floor, be able to go inside and out when he wants to, have less demand on you have to be inside, getting them, freeing them up, letting them be a little more freer. I think you might see a bigger scorer from him. He's learning to lead a team. I think he did a really good job. Still question some of his choices and some of the way he brings out the need to people. But overall, I think that he's learning to lead. I think he's learning his lesson. I think in the next 2 or 3 years, he might not win the championship, unfortunately, here in Minnesota. But when it's time for that next big contract, if he ain't here, wherever he go, he's probably going to win one. It's going to be that Kevin Garnett syndrome. You know what I'm saying? We're always going to come up a little short. He's going to go to one team that got just 2 or 3 players he needs, and he's going to just win a championship. And then I just want to say this: Jimmy Butler, Trey Young, and Kawhi Leonard all were right underneath him. Again, I still think Jimmy Butler is overrated. I wouldn't put him in the top 10, but he's still a heck of a player. Trey Young, another one that could be, the Stephen Curry type. He's got all those. He can shoot like Steph. We know that. And he's learning to lead like Steph. But again, doesn't have a lot of talent around him. And Kawhi Leonard, somebody wake him up and tell him, let's come play some basketball. slap some ice on it. The old school. If it ain't broke, then get up there and keep going. You know what I'm saying? He needs to get off. You need to quit being lazy. To me, that's my problem with Kawhi. I think I guess I take 30 million and sit on the bench and say my ankle hurts. Come on, man. Come on, man. So there you go. That's my guys and my reasoning.
Interesting.
Okay.
It was really well explained. Pretty in depth. Only gripe I have with it is Ja Morant. I think Ja Morant is overrated. I do not think he's a top 10 player. I think he disappeared in the Timberwolves series, and only reason people talk about him is because he made a dunk in like game 4 that won them the game, and he showed up in the last 2 minutes. Otherwise, Pat Bev, and D'Lo, like while D'Lo didn't do anything offensively, either did Ja for most of the series. I think he disappeared, and they beat the Timberwolves not because of Ja, but because of his surrounding cast doing a lot, especially their like off the bench power forward and small forward. That's just my only gripe. I think Ja's overrated. Black Jesus, as he likes to call himself, needs to get real and
We won't go that far.
play
Nope.
more.
Nope. Nope. No, that's a good point. That is a good point. But I'll tell you this. I think you always got to let a superstar learn how to play in the
Mhm.
playoffs. Now, if I get you, and I tell you what, I would take him off my list if he does it again next year. I think they should make the playoffs and make another run. But if he disappears in one of them series, then he's out. Because then now he's shown he doesn't have any leadership skills.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Go ahead, Alek.
So I guess it's my turn. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start backwards. I'm gonna start with like 10.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to preface that, like I said when I was saying the top 7 could be switched around for me, and that's what I did. And I kept the 10 through 8 the same, only because I think 10 through 8 could be just based on personal opinion and argued either way,
Yeah.
right? So I have 10 Booker, 9 Butler, 8 Tatum, with honorable mentions of Murray, Mitchell, Edwards, LaMelo, Levine, Cat, Trey Young, Kawhi Leonard, Lillard, and Morant. I think to replace any of those 3 spots
Mm-hmm.
and have an arguable like representation for it. For number 7, I put Embiid. It's like Dad said, he's coming into his own. He bullies really well. Unfortunately, he's a Shaq light. He's not to the level of dominance of Shaq, where he single-handedly changes the game to the point where his team just wins if they have just some mediocre shooters and or one other star, right? After Embiid, I have Durant, who, giving credit where credit's due, I don't like Durant, but he is very, very talented man. He can't lead a team. Unfortunately, he needs other pieces around him. He's kind of suffers the same thing as Embiid. Like, he's just really, really good, but just hasn't figured out how to do it himself. I feel like he has slightly less excuse than Embiid because he's self-proclaimed best player in the league. He's the NBA's guy. You would assume he would be able to handle a team by himself. After Durant, I have LeBron James. Age is catching up to him. He's not as good. He's trying to put a team together, and it's just not working as well as it used to. It's partially not his fault due to injuries and all that, but still, it's like age is catching up to LeBron, unfortunately. I still think he's probably one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest. And he's doing very, very, very well for his age. But like just the fact that he's on this list is a testament to that. After James, I have Curry. I don't think Curry like one-on-one beats James, but with this team scheme he's in, the way they just play, his chemistry with his teammates, he has shooters to help him out. Curry's just a better player in the team sense. He's just in the perfect scheme for himself. Getting to the top 3, I put Luka number 3. I think for his age, how young he is, how he dominates the game and can change the outcome. He's shown that he's clutch. He's shown that he can put the weight on his shoulders. Dad's right. He's probably a little out of shape, and as the season go on, he does get better. But like, it only takes one summer of him working out to start that way, and then he just proves throughout the season to be just a dominant force, right? Next, I have Giannis at number 2. Giannis is a freak. He's just a freak. He takes 3 steps and he's down the court. It's like Randy said, his game is frustrating to watch, but you gotta respect it because no one else can do it. Again, he backs up, takes 2 steps, he's at the rim. Like, how do you stop that? He has Michael Jordan's Space Jam arm where it stretches. It's insane. It's actually disgusting watching him play. He's just a dominant force. If he learns how to shoot, he's like up there for probably like one of the greatest of all time, honestly. And then finally, I have Joker. With everything Dad said, if I put Luka third, Joker's just doing what Luka's doing, but better. He's just as dominant as Giannis. He can do everything. He's a team player. He's a shooter. He's just good. It's just his game. It's his court. Every time he walks on and he's scary. Him and his family's scary. I'm not gonna lie. So, like, have you ever seen him? Yo, one time he got in a fight with a fan, and his like 3 brothers stood up and tried to fight the fan.
Jeez.
Yeah, he has a scary ass family. He's just a scary dude, and like by himself. This was like one of those guys that should probably be in prison, but ain't. Honestly, so yeah, that's my list.
Croatian mob, watch out.
Both of your lists are good. Alek and I have similar lists. I'll start at 10. I'm cheating. I have a tie at 10 with Cat and Booker. I think they're very similar players, just obviously different positions. Cat would be higher on my list. I think Cat is one of the more talented people on the list of top 10. But for everything I've said in like against Ja, against Giannis, against other players, what you said about Luka, it's doubled for Cat. Cat doesn't know how to get out of his own head. Cat can disappear if it's not going his way. Cat doesn't know how to stay out of foul trouble. He doesn't know how to stop running his mouth when he gets bad calls. And just like Ja, he can disappear.
He's getting better at that, though.
Yeah, he disappeared in the play-in game. We only made to the playoffs because of D'Lo, that game. And then he disappeared in a couple games down the stretch. So did all the Timberwolves, obviously, where we were up by almost 30 points and they blow it. A superstar wouldn't have allowed that happen. So he has a lot to learn still. But he's too talented not to be in the top 10. At 9, I have Jason Tatum. Dude's just too talented, all around offensive scorer. Number 8, I have Kevin Durant. Again, he's super talented as a scorer, but when we're talking about age getting into players, I think age and injury has got to Kevin Durant. He is a shell of his former self. While he can still score, that's really about it. I think he's now a 20-point a game player when he was a 30-point game player. Like, still great for the NBA. He's just not a top 3 player in the league right now. At 7, I have Jimmy Butler. His defense and his drive to be great puts him at 7. He's talented. He shows it. He's hard work. He like, outside of his attitude, like, he let that chip on his shoulder get too big in his drive to be a top player. But outside of his personal attitude, I would tell any kid who is trying to make the NBA that isn't the mode of like a LeBron James or doesn't have the shooting of Curry, mold your game after Butler. Work. And that's all Butler did to get to where he is today. He is the definition of hard work when it comes to the NBA. 6 is Embiid. You can't deny the kid's talent. While I don't personally like him as a Timberwolves fan and a Cat fan, he is in front of Cat for the simple reason he doesn't let people get, like, while he could still be off in his own head, I think it's more to do with him than it is other players and refs. Where Cat, while it doesn't get in his own head, he lets other people get into his head. And also, I think this year will be different for Cat, but he was still reeling too much. And this is super, it's going to come across super insensitive. Uh, but it's not how I'm trying to say it. He let the death of his mother impact his game too much. Like, I understand that she was the one that got him into basketball, and that he played basketball for her. And this is a personal opinion. If something was to happen to Alek, for example, I wouldn't let that impact whatever we're doing now. Like, if we were successful in our podcast or YouTube or whatever we're doing, his death wouldn't demotivate me from doing that. It would motivate me to do it more in honor of him. And so that's where I get lost in Cat not want, like, he said he wasn't sure if he's going to play basketball again at one point because it reminded him of his mom too much. Like, in my personal opinion, and this is just how I handle grief, everybody handles it different. It should have been a motive. Like, to me, it would have been a motivating factor to play, to be great, to be the level that she believed that he could have been. But I think he's learning that thanks to Jordan Woods and his dad and other people around him. He's starting to understand that, and that's why his game got progressively better as time has moved on. But it did impact him a little too. It sounds insensitive. It impacted him a lot on the basketball court for a while. Then 5, I have Curry. Like you said, age is getting into Curry, and it impacts his game more than other people because he's not super big and strong and athletic. All he can do really now is shoot. His defense isn't the greatest. He doesn't have much else to his game other than shooting, and that's still a huge thing that's always going to be there for him. But I don't think he's a top 3 player anymore.
Can I point out that he can take just about anybody to the hole unless you're not paying attention.
In
He
an
can drive
ISO
on
situation,
anyone.
sure, but like I said, same reason I said Giannis's game is going to devalue as it goes on if he doesn't develop more. Is help defense is too killer nowadays because everybody's so athletic. So when he does drive and he gets points, great, but it's not even his third option when he's playing. Like, he's looking to shoot, pass, and then pass to shoot. Which is perfectly. That's Curry's game. I just don't think he has enough anymore to be a top 3 player. At number 4, I have LeBron. Age again keeps him out of the top 3. But I think he showed enough last year that he's still the smartest player in the league. Still one of the most skilled players in the league on both sides of the ball. And I think with Anthony Davis back and a couple other role players stepping up, it takes some of the stress off of him, and he can be the mastermind that brings up the ball, runs the offense, be the floor general that he needs to be. And like you said, he'll go get his points when he needs it, but at this point in his career, it's about doing what's necessary to make the team win, and he knows that dropping 40 points isn't what's going to make his team win every game. But he'll do it when he needs to. He did it last season, even though he only played like 50 games. When he needed to drop 50 points, he dropped 50 points without batting an eye. Number 3, my mic. Number 3, I have Luka. Like you said, Luka's, wow, super dominant. Everybody loves him. Even NBA 2K22 loves him. I've been doing a series on YouTube and TikTok, and every single simulation I've done, he's been the MVP. So clearly, NBA 2K22 thinks there's something special about him. But he still needs to develop certain aspects of his game to be the best in the NBA. And I think he could do it in the next couple years. But like you said, he needs to be more in shape. He needs to be more ripped. Like, it sounds dumb. Like, he's not out of shape, but he could be more physically dominating and impressive. Kind of like Giannis developed. Which brings me to number 2, Giannis. We don't need to get into it anymore. Everybody knows why Giannis is the number 2 in the league. And then Jokic is number 1, obviously. We all had Jokic number 1. The dude had 19 triple-doubles last year. More than any player in the league by like 7. And you're like, oh, well, he's a big guy. Of course he's going to get rebounds. Of course he's going to get his points. But to get a triple double, you need another third category, and that third category is passing. Big men aren't known for their passing like that, but Jokic is a fantastic passer, something that wasn't talked about. His passing ability is top notch, one of the best in the league, definitely the best big man passer in the league. And I think Jokic is going to be a top player in the league for a while. I don't unless he hurts his knee or his leg or something. He's taking top spot for the foreseeable future.
Yep, yep, a good list. I got to point out the mission on my list that both of you were on yours, which is Devin Booker.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why Devin Booker was not on my list is I still see Devin Booker as playing under Chris Paul.
Mm-hmm.
When I watch them play, okay, Devin Booker's game gets risen up by Chris Paul. Okay, when Chris Paul is not playing, Devin still goes out and get his, but it's not the same. He's not he's not to me that constant threat. But when Chris Paul is on the floor, it's like he goes up a couple of levels. He plays at that superstar level
Mm-hmm.
because he has that superstar guiding him.
Yeah.
So I think he still needs to mature more to learn how to be a superstar player. That's the only reason why he wasn't on my list. Is I still think he plays under
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, uh my man, and as soon as he learns to play above Chris Paul,
Mm-hmm.
then he'll be in the list for sure. But I just don't think he has that skill right now.
Understandable. Yeah, no, it's definitely reasonable reason to keep him off, and it's true. He plays at a higher level when CP3 is running, and I think that's more credit to CP3 than it is a takeaway from Booker. But CP3 is not a top 10 player anymore. It's just too old
Right.
and has too many glaring issues. I think CP3 would have. This is off topic. Just to switch to we're gonna wrap it up here at the end. So we'll talk about a couple small things real quick. CP3's legacy will forever be known for not being traded to the Lakers. If
Yeah.
CP3 would have been traded to the Lakers, we are talking about a different conversation for uh, best players to ever play. I think CP3 goes to the Lakers. It is CP3 in the conversation, not Curry.
Yep. Done.
I think Curry, while still would have been great, I think CP3 would have been that point guard we talk about. We would have talked about CP3 being the logo instead of Curry being the logo, because that's who they want a point guard for the logo. It's just CP3 was screwed over by David Stern, and it is incredibly unfair. Like, I get why they did it. Like, CP3 would have went there, you still would have had Kobe, and you still would have had, I think, still would have had Gasol, and still had the ability to go sign a max player. But that's not the job of the NBA to stop in and stop something because you think it's unfair. It's not their fault that it's not Lakers' fault that they maneuvered their pieces around to set up to win like that. It wasn't like it was an unfair trade. They were giving up big pieces still. They were giving up Andrew Bynum and picks and stuff like that. So it wasn't like they were just giving no one away for CP3. It was a joke, and I think like it is a huge tarnish in his legacy and the NBA's legacy. It will forever be talked about, forever be known as the time the NBA overstepped their boundaries to save their money because they didn't want a dominant Lakers team to run things for a while.
Oh yeah. If he would have made that team, that would have been over. That would have been, hey, just go ahead and give him the championship. Call me in 3 years.
And it was crazy, even at the time, like there was better team. Like it wasn't like the Lakers were going to be the most dominant team to ever play the game. There were still other great teams at that point already. The Lakers were just going to compete at a higher level with all these teams.
Right. Right.
And so it was just dumb. But you mentioned that you wanted to talk about another trending topic, and we'll do that to end the podcast. Everybody in the world, at least if you're a sports fan, even if you're not a sports fan, if you're a social justice fan, know about Deshaun Watson and all the issues going around him, all the accusations of sexual harassment. And then recently the NFL and was taken to a higher level court. That judge ruled that he would just be suspended for a few games, no fine. The NFL, after some pushback, decided that they wanted to amend that ruling, and now they have given him a $5 million fine and 11-game suspension. Only thing I will mention on it, it is a very odd number to give him for game suspension. If you are a critic of the NFL and you know that they do a lot of things for money, it's funny that the game he would come back to is against Houston.
Yes. Now, there's some of you ain't going to like my take, and some of you are going to understand what I'm saying to you. First of all, last time I checked, the NFL is not, I repeat, not a justice department. Okay. And he was accused, and I'm not going to say whether he did or did not, because I don't know, of violating these women. It went to two, not one, but two grand juries in the state of Texas, and they declined criminal charges. Right? So let's keep that in mind. They declined any criminal charges, which still means that they still could do a civil suit, which is now a he said, she said situation, people. It is not a criminal act anymore any longer. All right. The NFL overstepped its bounds to me because they have sat here and said, well, we're going to take away your work and some of your money for a civil lawsuit that's a he said, she said, because we're going to take a side. Now, I understand that there are people affected by this. I'm not saying he did or didn't do anything, and I don't know, and I really don't want to know because that's between him and those ladies, and eventually him and God are going to sort that out. I, I have I have no doubt about that. But the thing is that I see people jumping on saying, "Oh, he should got more. This is outrageous," or even some people said, "Well, why he's even being able to play the game?" You know, your next door neighbor, the person down the street. There are people out there that have actually done more criminal acts that would, under the laws of the United States, should be in jail that aren't, that have done things that are out there in the stratosphere that we know happened, that are walking around like free as a jailbird. No one said anything. The only reason why this is taking precedence is because it all of a sudden became about women's rights. This has nothing to do about women's rights. It's everything to do about what one man and one woman said they did or didn't do. Okay, it has nothing to do about women's rights. No one's trampling on women's rights. No one's putting women in the back in the corner. Doing that. Don't put baby in the corner bullshit. No one's doing any of that. All right. People have decided to take this into a level that it should have never been. Once the state of Texas said we have no criminal charges, it's a civil suit, and by law of their contract, fine, do whatever you can do to save the shield, as they like to say, protect it, do whatever you want to do. But to literally decide in the press and the media, on ESPN and all these other shows, NFL, network, and come out and basically just say because he didn't get a certain number of games that this is egregious and it's an offense to women. What are you talking about? Again, this has nothing to do with women per se, as in every man treats a woman like that. You're trying to, you know, prove a point and use him as the poster child. Men don't do that. I mean, if he did what he did, then yeah, I personally think he should be in jail. But the people that could put him in jail said he didn't do they couldn't prove that he did that to them. Understand the words I'm saying here, people. They could not prove the accusations. And then people say, well, the civil suits. Well, a civil suit is again a he said, she said situation in which they don't need to prove total guilt or innocence. They just have to show malice. They just have to show that there was a possibility that this did happen, and the judge or jury agrees or doesn't agree with them. So, the bottom line is this: we need to stop trying to create policy for society through sports or any other medium, and realize that as life goes, we can take these life lessons, but you can't pick and choose and make a poster child out of somebody when there's something in it that you think you can exploit. This is what I feel like this whole situation has been exploited. Would I root for Deshaun Watson as a person to get better if he is having issues? Yeah, I hope he does get better. Do I care if he plays football? Not, no, not really. It's his livelihood. I do care about the fact that people are trying to take away people's livelihood. I do think that again, if it's unproven, what gives you the right to take that away from someone? Now, his contract allows him, some say in that, and I understand that part. But for everybody else saying he should never play again and do this and do that, I tell you, you need to pump the brakes and think about this rationally and stop trying to make this a global issue and realize this is one man with these issues. And some of this is fishy because, if there was such a issue with him, they said, well, 25 ladies, it can't be wrong. Mm. They didn't find anything wrong with two grand juries, and 20 of the 25 women settled way before we even got to this point. So something's not right there to me. And again, I don't know, but until the whole story comes out, I just get tired of people trying to judge people at a putting them on a pedestal and act like they're not the same one on the same damn pedestal. Just theirs is behind this door that's not been opened yet. That's my point. People in glass houses should never throw stones. Well, America, we in a glass America. Quit throwing stones. Reflect, understand, make a difference in your life about what that means, and you make yourself better. You got to take care of yourself first, then you can worry about other people's actions. And I just think it's just been overblown to me how this whole thing has been handled. And that's just my personal opinion. Again, I'm not saying I think he should get away with anything. That's not what I'm saying. Do I think he should get away scot free? No. If he did it, he should pay the price. But prove it. Don't because I feel because of this. No, that's a feeling. That's not a fact. There's a difference between the two. It's like I'm walking up and I go up to Randy and say, I feel you should, cut all your hair off because I don't like the curls on your head. And if you don't do it, I'm not going to give you this $100. Well, that's my opinion. And now I'm going to try to keep his money away from him too, because of my opinion. That makes no sense. It's the same analogy, folks. It really is. You're trying to tell a man what he can and can't do, and what money he can have or not play a sport or play a sport because of your opinion, not on fact. Let's be real now. The fact is, yes, 25 women accused him of something. The fact is, 20 of them were settled. The fact is, none of them came to a criminal case. That to me tells you that some of this is hearsay. She said, he said. Who knows what the deal was? That again, unless Deshaun and those people come up and say, "Here's the truth," no one really will know. So, I'm sorry. I had to get that off my chest because it was bothering me watching how people decide to judge another person. Now, I didn't make this about color or anything like that. I want to make sure people understand that. That's why I said a man or a woman. I didn't say a black person or white. Then it was nothing about that. It's all about simple facts of life.
And that's the $2. I know. Yeah, that is a take on Deshaun Watson. I don't disagree. Obviously, I have different other points in it, but yeah, that's a very valid take on the situation. A lot of good points in there. So yeah, sound off in the comments on your view on it. We thank you for listening to this episode of Nerd Shit.
Thank you.
The nerdiest of all episodes, sports. We'll be back again in the future with more nerdy sports things. And until then, Thank you for listening. Have a great day. Deuces.
Thank you.
And if you don't like it, get back to me. I got answers.